Cincinnati. I know we have elder people and whoever. She's a mom, a Christian, a nurse, a social worker who happens to be transgender. Jody is divorced and remarried with 3 kids, 3 dogs, and a mortgage. But in addition to that, I have been honored to have seen her presentation, and there are so many things that Jody's going to share about gender affirming. So many definitions, things that I never knew. And with Jody's job and experience at Ohio State University, Wexler Center, working with gender affirming care. So Jody, welcome.
Do I need to use the mic? Do you guys think I need to use it?
Yes.
Okay. I'm super pleased and honored to be here. I grew up Catholic, and I did go to a Dignity Conference years ago. It fell off my radar a little bit. And then somebody at work talked to somebody here, and here I am. So, I know. So I was going to a Dignity group in Cincinnati that was near Xavier for a while. Xavier, yep, Musketeers. And they were meeting in a Quaker building, which I thought was really interesting. They weren't in like a Catholic church. But you guys probably know that story better than I do. And so they were talking about this conference that was going to happen, this national thing. And I wasn't really paying that much attention. But then I figured out that I had time, and so I drove all the way to Philadelphia in my green Volkswagen Jetta 4-door. Remember those old Jettas? And showed up at the conference with, I had paid for registration, but I had nowhere to stay. I just kind of showed up with a sleeping bag and a backpack. And they made this announcement from the stage that there's this person here has nowhere to stay. Anybody have any room? I felt kind of embarrassed, but it was an adventure, I guess, right? So I showed up, and then Dick and Bob let me sleep on their floor, which was really cool. They're right back there. It was and I went because I really felt like you can't be gay and you can't be Christian, or you can't be Catholic. You just can't do it. Like, how does this even work? And so the conference was super cool and very enlightening. And I remember it was their anniversary. That was their anniversary weekend, and I felt really bad that I was going to be in their room in case they wanted to be active. We'll just say that. And I said, I'm so sorry that I'm here. I'll be over near the bathroom. You guys can do whatever you need to do. And I can't remember exactly what Dick said, but it was something like, oh, honey, we're just 2 old fags. We're too tired for that. So that was 2005. It was 20 years ago. A lot has changed. When I showed up at that conference, I had a number 2 buzz cut. My hair looks a little different now. They had a dance on this Saturday night, and I wore this blue shirt. People must have thought I was cute because they were getting their picture taken with me. And I danced with a boy, and I might have kissed that boy. I'd never kissed a boy before. So it was very interesting. What else has changed? I used to have a penis, so I had a penis at that conference. All right, trying to make it fun. This is what we're going to do today, talk about me, some terminology, gender stuff, medical stuff. It's okay to put your hand up and ask a question. It is okay to think you want to ask a question, but you're too afraid you might offend me or seem like not woke or whatever. It is okay, but this is what we're going to do today. We could spend about 3 hours on it. So some slides I'm just going to zoom by, and you never know who knows what. So sometimes I'll say things and you're like, I already know that, Jody. So, all right. I can't get this clicker to work, so here we are. So, yep, I grew up in Cincinnati. My parents divorced when I was little, and I knew something was different about me about age 6. So who went to Catholic school? Oh, look at this. Not surprised. So the girls got to wear the plaid jumpers, and they lined up on the left side of the hallway for gym. And all the boys had to wear like khaki pants and like a white shirt. And I wanted to be with the girls in the jumpers, but I couldn't do that. So I knew something was different, but like some of you in here, I'm old. So this was before the internet. This was way back in the day. So no like words for what was going on with me, just very kind of confused and thought, okay, I just need to keep my head down with this gender stuff. I just really gotta figure this out, and I need to be a dude. Was what I figured out. And my mom, at one point, she went to a Pentecostal church. What? Assembly of God. There was a guy named Jimmy Swaggart. Remember him? He preached there one time, and what I liked was the pews were padded. Felt real nice on my booty. So anyway, I heard that hate the sin, love the sinner over and over. So anything outside of like what you might call heteronormativity is bad, gay, bad, all those kind of things. And if you do something like that, you're making a choice to sin. I was like, oh, I am set up for failure. So this was my, this is first communion. Look at me. I like the wallpaper in this. You can't get that no more, let me tell you. Probably has asbestos in it. I'm off picture coughing. But yeah, so I had my rosary and all the things. And so by this time, I was certainly confused, but again, I'm trying to be who I'm supposed to be, who I think God wants me to be. Everybody wants me to be. So, and as a young teenager, so my mom worked third shift, and Dad was not around, so she'd go to work, and I'd stay up, I'd dress up in her stuff, and I'd try her clothes on, and try to figure out I was doing a horrible job, and I'm like, why am I trying to figure this out? This all seems so weird, what's going on here? But the biggest thing was, no one can know. This has got to be this big secret.
You want me to push that?
You can if you want to. It's up to you.
Would it help?
Oh, it's okay. I'm up here. All right. So high school. Didn't know what I wanted to do. No money. And my first job was at Sky. Who's had Skyline? Chili. Who thinks it's chili? Oh, just a few people think it's chili. The rest, I don't know what it is. But yeah, that was my first job was at Skyline, and it was the weekends was 5 p.m. to 3 a.m. And you couldn't leave until it was clean, so that was like 5, so 12-hour shift. That was like 16. I know, right? But yeah, I did join the military out of high school. I kind of figured, and there were all these commercials on TV. Like, who remembers the be all that you can be? So I was being all I could be. And so I was in for 8 years. That was kind of the plan to pay for college and all that fun stuff. And I really felt like I could pray the gay away. I could shave my head and throw all my stash away. And I was going to be a dude, damn it. And I was going to show everybody how awesome I was. So it doesn't quite work that way. Went to UC, any UC people? Maybe? Oh, look at that! So I was a bear cat for a little while. And I worked in a warehouse, I did some IT kind of stuff. And then life kind of fell apart in a sense. My first marriage ended in divorce. We had gotten married in a Catholic church. And I was living in a convent that was bought by a vineyard church, which is like this non-denominational thing. And I was in there, and they had these classes, and one of them was about social justice. And even though I grew up Catholic, I didn't know what that was. So, Dorothy Day people, anybody into Dorothy a little bit? Yeah, pretty awesome lady. Never going to be a saint because she had an abortion, but she's pretty cool. So anyway, they were talking about what to do with your life. Like, do something with your hands, some of the people, makes you feel alive. And so I thought, well, I don't want to be a nurse because my parents are nurses and basically had to raise myself, but I thought, let me go be a nurse. So, I know it's crazy. So, LGBTQ, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer. So, I am assigned male at birth when AMAB. So, when I came out, doctor saw a penis and said, it's a boy! So then, socialized a boy, raised, wearing blue, doing all the things. So, AMAB, assigned male at birth. 99, 95, whatever percent of people, however you're born, however you're socialized, totally cool with that. Like it makes total sense. You never have to question it. But for some people, for some reason, we think it has to do with things that happen with hormonal release in the womb. People have this idea, this feeling that something is different between my assigned gender and my gender identity. And so we get to, who's seen the gender unicorn preaching to the choir, or the genderbread person? They both work, right? So yeah, you've got, and so this is how I try to explain it to my parents. Because when I came out to them, and it didn't come out until my 40s, for lots of reasons, I tried to use something like this to explain it. Because when I came out to them, they just said, so you're gay now? It's like, no, that's not what I'm trying to say at all. Like, you know, this is about the heart. Sexual orientation, who you're attracted to, whether you're attracted to men or women or both or all. What I'm trying to say is, you know what my joke looks like? You were there when I was born. You changed my diapers. So you know what that looks like. What I'm trying to say is, since I was a youngin', something was different about me. And I figured that out when I was about 5 or 6. So when I say I'm coming out as a transgender female, what I'm saying is I'm going to express my true gender identity. And you can see also that these are sliders, right? Because all this stuff is on a spectrum, less of a binary. All right, let's see what's next. So this is maybe the whole acronym, if you will, as much as I know. So there's all the things. And the Q used to just be questioning, but in the last 10 or 15 years, a lot more people identify as queer. Any people identifying as queer in here? See, queer is here, right? And it's just kind of like, I'm part of this rainbow. I don't necessarily say that I'm this, that, or the other. That maybe that's stigmatizing. I'm just part of this whole world. So, terminology. So let's talk just a bit about, So, anybody broken their arm? Only 3 or 4 people have ever anybody broken a bone?
I fractured my shoulder.
See? And what happened? You went, oh, I think I broke my shoulder. Oh my God. So they might have done like an x-ray, and maybe they did like a diagnosis. Like right away, oh yeah, you effed up your arm. Oh man, look at that. So an immediate diagnosis, and so immediate treatment, like you're in a sling, you got a cast, people sign it. 6, 7 weeks later, you're free to go. So immediate diagnosis, immediate treatment. So when it comes to stuff like trans stuff, like how do you get diagnosed? Like, is there an MRI for this? Is there a scan? Is there a blood test? Oh look, you're trans. What am I gonna do? So I guess, and I don't mean to make like super light of it, but it's kind of like instead of looking through like ICD-10 codes, you're looking through what's called the DSM, which is Diagnostic Statistical Manual 5th edition or 5th TR, looking to see if you meet criteria for gender dysphoria. And then based on that criteria, it's kind of up to you what you kind of do with it, what you want to do with it in your life, your means, your desire, your family situation, all those fun things. So this is like the DSM-5 criteria, incongruent between your expressed gender, your assigned gender, at least 6 months, desire to be rid of primary, secondary sex characteristics, desire to be treated, seen as the other gender, all those things. You're trying to figure out what your distress is. So again, I said I was old. So who knows Patrick Swayze? Dirty Dancing. Patrick shaking them hips, right? Looking good in Roadhouse or whatever else. I know, embarrassing some people. He was in a movie called Tu Wong Fu. Thanks, Julie Newmar. Anybody see that? Remember that movie? A few people do! So in that, there were like 3 of them crossing the country as like drag queens, stopping at little villages. And at one point, somebody said to Patrick, who was dressed as a woman, I always knew that you were a man. And Patrick was like, oh, how, honey? How would you know that about me? And she said, well, you have an Adam's apple. And I thought, and I went to the mirror, and I felt my Adam's apple, and I was like, oh my God, I have an Adam's apple. Like, I'm cursed. No one's ever going to see me as a woman. Like, I'm never going to pass, which is like having people see you as your true gender identity. So that was part of my dysphoria. So dysphoria about my Adam's apple. Dysphoria about why, if I'm a woman, do I have a penis? I mean, yeah, I need to pee. And yeah, I can like procreate, but I don't want this. So that can lead into our lovely presentation, into this idea of shame. We all have shame about something in our lives. Don't know exactly what it is for you. The less we talk about it, the more control it has over our lives. Pretty much everybody in here has something they're ashamed of. If somebody knew this about me, they wouldn't like me anymore. They might reject me. So that leads to good old internalized homophobia, internalized transphobia, this idea that I hate myself because I am different and I need to hide who I am. And we all know that from many aspects of our lives. We can have these negative side effects of shame where it's like, okay, if I can't be myself, maybe I'm going to cope. And maybe I'm going to cope in ways that maybe aren't the best. So depression, self-harm, all those kind of things. So acceptance of abuse from others. And it doesn't help that we have what are called clobber passages. These are the kind in the culture war where people say, well, God created male and female. What are you doing messing with that? Man shall not put on a woman's garment. It is abhorrent. And for me, that Deuteronomy one, that just like slayed me. I was like, oh my God, I'm horrible. I'm abhorrent. It's awful. Man must not lie with man. Wonderfully made in the womb. Don't mess it up. And so I literally thought for a while I'm probably going to end up a eunuch. Like I'm probably just going to have my testicles cut off and just live like a eunuch. At least they'll get into heaven. Good plan. So, but you know, there's other stuff in here. Like good old Joseph and his Technicolor Dreamcoat. Like, if you think about it, that was like the first cross-dresser in the Bible. What? Mind blown. But, you know, you also think to yourself, that's Old Testament. Jesus came to fulfill all that stuff. We don't care about the OT. And then they throw out Romans 1:26. You know, that's the one people like to throw out. It's like, see, you're all bad. But what's interesting about some of these passages, like Deuteronomy, right in that same section, it says you shouldn't wear mixed fabrics. I don't know what I got on, but I think I might be sinning right now. It also talks about the way to take care of birds. Like, what? So you can use those to slam people. Like, we don't care as much as Catholics about that as much as like the catechism. And I remember when I went to that conference in 2005, they talked about this disordered all the time. That inside of the catechism, homosexual acts are intrinsically disordered. And then you've got stuff from the Vatican saying that gender affirming is on par with abortion or euthanasia. And it's like, oh man, it's just getting slammed left and right. What in the heck? What are we going to do? So in the midst of this, we still are trying to be ourselves. Feel like it's okay to be ourselves. And still kind of struggling with these mental health issues. And I had gone to a church who suggested I go to see a counselor for my gender issues. And this counselor said that I was a pervert, also said that I was a sex addict, but I didn't know how because I wasn't having a lot of sex. But they had me wear a rubber band on my wrist. Anytime I had any feminine thought, I was supposed to snap the rubber band to kind of like have this Pavlovian thing going on. I didn't know that was conversion therapy, but I knew I was an evil, sick, perverted person, and I need to be cured. And so the way to do that was to replace that with Bible study, fasting, all the things, and that was going to cure me. So it didn't work. All right, let's see. So, you know, I am at Ohio State. I've been at Ohio State since my second job in Columbus, and I worked there for a couple of years. I worked in an outpatient clinic, and I came out a couple of years after starting to work there. I was very, very afraid that I was going to lose my job and all the things. The sky would just fall. And it did fall in some ways, but they were very respectful, which was very nice, so I was very lucky. But about the same time, they started having these transgender primary care clinics at OSU, and I was very excited. So yeah, so they've had these things now since 2014, 2015, and they do all the typical things you would do in primary care. But they also have a good focus on gender-related issues, maybe related to things like HRT, referrals for surgeries, and so let me go back for a second. So anybody know what an informed consent clinic is? I bet a few people do. Yeah. So when I was coming out, I was in a support group. I heard somebody say who was good to get hormones. And so I called them up and said, I'd like to start hormones? And they said, well, do you have a letter? I was like, what letter? They're like, you need a letter from a mental health therapist diagnosing you as transgender before you see us. And I was like, oh, okay, so call us back when you have a letter, click. So then that began the process of, who do I talk to? How do I find a gender therapist? Because I needed to be diagnosed before they would treat me. Back to that medical model, right? So this clinic, informed consent, means you can start process of HRT without a letter, so they call it an informed consent clinic. So things that they would treat are like anything else. Health history, STDs, alcohol, tobacco, referral for surgeries, depression, anxiety, all the things. And some people who want to and have the means and all that fun stuff can have surgeries that are gender affirming. And so typical for male to female, we already talked about the trach scrape from Patrick Swayze. You can also have some facial feminization done if you would prefer. For top surgery for trans female, you're putting them on. Top surgery for trans male, you're taking them off. See how that works? And so, you can also have what's called an orchiectomy, which is removal of the testicles, which will then pretty much eliminate testosterone inside your body. You can also have what's called a vulvoplasty or vaginoplasty, and the usual technique for that is called penile inversion vaginoplasty, where they just basically take things apart, turn things inside out, put them back together. Sounds simple, but it's not. And then over here you can have hysterectomy, or an oophorectomy, vaginectomy. You can have what's called phalloplasty or metoidoplasty. So people are pretty familiar with the hysterectomy. For phalloplasty, that is the procedure of creating penis really out of nothing. And so oftentimes it's skin grafts, usually either from the arm or the thigh. And it's like plastic surgery, working with urology, reconstruct all that stuff, or metaplasty. So those are the kind of surgeries that are generally available. And you'll hear these different stories like, I always laugh when I do this. The ACLU is coming into your children's grade school and operating without your notice on your children. Watch out now. Vote no on anything. Except for the big, beautiful bill, amen. So, and they'll say, there's no standard across the country. Willy-nilly surgeons are doing these things on poor children. So there is a standard of care, which is called WPATH, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. They're up to their 8th edition. It's a free PDF. It's 200 pages of all kinds of criteria. Like, when is it appropriate for someone to be on hormones? Is there a certain criteria you need to meet before you even think about some kind of life-changing surgery? So, and we care a lot about WPATH. One, to have a standard of care across the country, really across the world, but also a lot of these surgeries are very expensive, like super expensive. We want our insurance to cover. To get your insurance company to cover something, what does it have to be? Anybody know? Medically necessary. You broke your arm, it's medically necessary. So in this case, you've got gender dysphoria, medically necessary if you meet WPATH criteria. So that's why we care about WPATH. All right, I have half an hour. I think I'm doing good. Let's see. So sometimes there's lots of questions about communicating with LGBTQ people, and the thing, I guess you could just say, is avoid assumptions. Avoid assumptions. So let's do a little exercise if you want to. Let's all play nurse. And I know, at a conference like this, that could be dangerous. But let's all play nurse, and if you want, you can close your eyes if you want to. And let's say you're a nurse, working second shift, and you find out from the charge nurse you're getting a new patient in 15 minutes in bed 4, and she's 36 years old. So you can close your eyes and try to imagine that 36-year-old female coming into room 4. You're like, 36. Woman, Central Ohio. Okay, I think she's gonna be white. And she's gonna be white because everybody's white, which is just not true. Columbus is crazy diverse, but everybody's white. It's 36. Oh, I bet she's married because she's 36. I bet she's married to a man, and so she's straight, and I bet she's got 2.3 kids, and let's see what else. She probably has all her arms and legs. She probably walks and talks. She probably speaks English. She probably has a minivan. It probably has little stick figure family on the back. Probably listens to Christian music when the kids are in the car, and then rap when they're not. So everything I said is really more about me than it is about this person. So trying not to make the assumptions. So when I go into a room, hey, my name's Jody, my pronouns are she, her, hers, what do you go by? And how should I address you? And I say that versus looking in the chart. Everybody healthcare-wise is looking in the chart for all the clues. So I'm gonna assume you're a dude because it says you're a dude in the chart. And I'm gonna assume your name is Bob because it says your name is Bob in the chart. So asking, trying not to assume, and if you do make mistakes, it's super easy to apologize. So pronouns. All right, so pronoun-wise, I think everybody's used to she, her, her. Those are my pronouns. People are probably used to he, him. People might not be as used to they, them. So, I don't know, the last 15 years or so, a lot more people are genderqueer, gender fluid, non-binary, gender F-U-C-K. And, it's true, people say, yeah, I'm gender fuck. I'm like, wow. Get informed consent for that first. But yeah, so, and we're not used to using they as singular. Like, we're just not used to it. But hey, for people that are trying not to follow that gender binary, that makes total sense to do they, them. And it can be singular. Say you're walking down the street, you come across somebody's cell phone. Oh, somebody left their cell phone. I hope they come back and get it. So we can use they, them. There are a host of other pronouns. I haven't really seen the Z-zir very often, but there are these things called neopronouns. I'm too old to explain it. But there are these different concepts like minority stress, microaggressions. So I'll give you an example maybe of a microaggression. So early on in my transition, I really felt like no one's really ever going to see me as female. Like, I got big hands, big feet, I got no hips, I got a deep voice. I'm just screwed for trying to pass as a woman. And so I wanted people walking down the street, if they saw me, to say, it's a girl. If they look at me and go, I think that's a guy, then I've been clocked. So I didn't want to be clocked. And so I was trying really hard. I went to speech pathology for a while. I changed my voice, trying what I could to pass. So if I was in some situation where I wanted to pass, but somebody would say, hold on, sir, then they don't think about it this way, but I was feeling like that was a microaggression. And earlier in transition stuff, sometimes getting served too often can just really be kind of devastating for people trying to identify as female, in my case. And I would sometimes go to my car and cry and think, this is never gonna work. No one's ever gonna see me as female. This whole thing is stupid. God hates me anyway. What am I doing? So, microaggression. And we already did implicit bias. That was our cute little demonstration there. You don't really know a bias that you have until you know. All right, good timing. So when we think about coming out LGBTQ, we can think about it through the lens of like Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Everybody knows that, probably the stages of grief.
Right.
Somebody finds out they have cancer, like, oh my God, am I gonna die? You might go through stages like, that's not real, I'm gonna get a second opinion. Maybe you find out it's real and you're like, damn it, and you're just very, very angry. Then maybe you go through this phase of like, well, maybe if I eat healthy and I'm in this study, I'll live longer. Then maybe you get into this sense of depression, like, this really is gonna be the end for me. Hopefully you get to acceptance, do your bucket list. So you can have those same kind of stages in relation to coming out. And I'm going to have to go through this like mega quick. But why do we have to come out? I forget every time that it does this. Because when we do come out, oftentimes we'll get these what are called rejecting behaviors. So let's see. I'm disappointed you decided to be trans. Like no one decides this, believe me. Please don't tell anyone that you're a lesbian. I mean, you can tell your brothers and sisters, but please don't tell Grandma. I would crush Grandma. But you're not going to heaven anymore. All the things. And so, for me, when I came out as a trans woman, and you know, this little quote, like, life is risky if you do it right. So, coming out later in life can blow up your life. My wife asked me for a divorce, had to move out of the house, worried I wouldn't see my kid again. My church asked me to stop coming because I was going to confuse their kids. All kinds of different stuff going on. And this last one that's kind of interesting, I think, for anybody who feels like they're in a relationship where maybe it's abusive, it's like sometimes the bad you know is better than the hoped for good that you don't know. I think that keeps a lot of people down. So, let's see. So when I go back, oh my gosh, if I go back here. So for me, when I first came out to my parents, a lot of shock and denial, and I hear this all the time. Oh honey, that's not right about yourself. We know you better than you know yourself. And this is a phase. It's just a phase. Like, just get through it, you know, back to life, right? And then you can have this sense of, like, disorganization. Who am I anymore? I used to hang out with the guys. Who do I hang out with now? Maybe this sense of guilt. And this was a big one for me. So, anybody think that the Christian life is supposed to be happy? Anybody think you should be happy in the Christian life? Somebody does. So for me, it's not about happiness. Duty, honor, obligation, and sacrifice. Paul had to carry his cross. This is your cross. You know, it's like, oh my gosh. So I never really thought you're supposed to be happy. What? So when I did start to come out, I got a lot of, what are you doing? You're so selfish. You're ruining your life. You're destroying your child's life because you're just a selfish sinner. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying really hard to be myself for the first time, but everybody says I'm awful, so not so easy. And then you can see that if you do lose that family connection, then you feel this sense of loss and loneliness. Hopefully you can find some people in the LGBTQ world that get it, that understand you, and hopefully it can become your family again. Well, we're going through it. Let's see. Oh yeah, so I'm very, very lucky. I'm what's called the transnormative tale of like a middle-class white person coming out and trying to deal with transition. So I first saw a gender therapist back in 2013, came out to friends and family, hormones, gender marker changes, had bottom surgery up at the University of Michigan. Any Michigan people? Michigan, look at that. Go blue. You're pointing at your knee like they did your knee or something. Yeah?
This is a football right here.
Fixed up my knee pretty good just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I can walk again. So got remarried, and then I was like, I never ever thought I would talk to anybody about this stuff because it was the biggest secret of my life, right? So I've been lucky to testify and work in the population and all that kind of stuff. And so at this point, I work at OSU. Most of what I do for general internal medicine is reporting, quality, compliance, workflow, like nurse nerd. But about 8 hours a week, I work with trans people who are interested in these kind of surgeries, which is pretty cool. And then I do some counseling locally with North Central Mental Health and focus on LGBTQ people as well. So I'm just very lucky. When I did get my vaginoplasty at the University of Michigan. I tried to have some fun with it, so I put these on all the walls. I was like, hey, U of M, thank you so much for the V. And I don't know anything about like Photoshop. This was like paint. I don't know if that's pubic hair or what, but that's what I was trying. I had a really good time. They enjoyed that too. But it's interesting, if you're in Michigan, your biggest rival is Michigan State. Not as much the Buckeyes. Of course, we hate them. All right, so politically, it's not the best time to be an LGBTQ person. Who knows Project 2025? Who wishes they never heard of Project 2025? That was put out like 3 or 4 years ago. Now like 100 pieces of that are like in like coming to fruition. I never thought any of that would happen. So here we are. So right now in Ohio, we've got like a trans bathroom ban. Don't say gay. The big one that's affecting places like Ohio State, other universities in Ohio, is Senate Bill 1. And so they're pulling all the DEI stuff out, which is just very, very sucky. Then we've got other bills going on here in Ohio right now. We're trying to push things like the Ohio Fairness Act. In different parts of Ohio, there has been approval on a conversion therapy ban for years now. So nationally, I'm worried about Roe v. Wade overturned a few years ago. You guys all know about that. Trans military ban has affected some of my friends, which is just awful. Threats to marriage equality even, voting rights, trans care, and this big beautiful bill that just passed a few days ago, which is going to kick a lot of people off Medicaid and SNAP, which is food stamps. So it's a really rough time to be LGBTQ, but I'm very glad that we have people that are representing and kind of quote-unquote fighting back like Dignity. So respect the identification of trans people, don't be afraid to ask questions, and the thing sometimes, let's see what we have time, this idea of better to be right or better to love. So let me go through my little thing when it comes to parents and their children coming out LGBTQ. I think we have time. So I'll lump all parents, which is dangerous, into 3 categories. That's my little thing. So the first category, yes, I'm your parent. Yes, I gave birth to you, but I'm so mentally ill, addicted, whatever, that you're on your own. You've been on your own your whole life. Go and prosper. Whatever you do, go do it. I gotta deal with my own crap. So, second group of parents are, we love you no matter what. You might live your life completely different than us. You may have completely values different than us. But no matter what, we're here. We love you. We're going to support you. So then the third set of parents are, we love you, but you need to stay within our faith tradition. Need to stay within our values. If you somehow stray from that, then you're kind of on your own. And we're going to do the tough love. We're going to kick you out. Live and prosper or whatever. And I worry the most about that third group, where you've had that kind of sense of love, connection, support, stability, but now you're out. And that's why we have such a problem with LGBTQ suicide, people homeless, all that fun things. So in this thing, is it better to be right, or is it better to love? And then who decides what's right? Like, do you know? Do you think because you read the Bible, or do you think because you might be embarrassed by your LGBT kids that you're going to cut them off? So hopefully we're all going to love each other, because that's our biggest commandment, I think. Somebody do the little thing? Right, you do that sometimes, right? Younger people? Amen, sister. So these are some of the books that I've looked at and read over the years. Most people here will remember The Church and the Homosexual. by Father McNeil, the old Jesuit dude. And when I came in 2005, he was there. I guess the year before he wasn't allowed to be there. And so I talked to him for a minute and gave him a hug. And people were like, "You saved my life with this book." I was like, oh my gosh. But in more recent years, Justin Lee has an amazing book called Torn, which goes right through the gays versus Christians debate, God and the Gay Christian, Matthew Vines. And then there's other books too, all the fun things. And the very first book I ever read on this whole thing was called She's Not There, A Life in Two Genders by Jenny Boylan. And when I was trying to figure things out, I was still married, so I was trying to read this with my wife, because Jenny's still married, came out and is still married. And I was trying to figure out what my kids should call me. We would go to the playground. At this point, my kiddo was 2, 3, 4. So you go to a public playground with little kids, right? And so I'm trying to pass. I've got makeup on and a purse and women's clothes, trying hard to just be one of the other moms at the playground. But I've got this kid out there in the playground. The kid yells back, "Hey, Daddy!" And so then all the other moms look at me, look at each other, and pull their kids off the playground because there's some weirdo here. So anyway, in that book, they came up with a couple different names for parents, like a kind of a combination of mom or dad. So one of them was Mappa. I thought it was interesting, but I didn't want to do the mop. So also came up with Maddie. So my kids have been calling me Maddie forever and ever. So there was a show on Amazon called Transparent for a while that was pretty good. A very, very dense book, which I think is awesome, is Whipping Girl. There's also this Trans Bodies, Trans Selves. It's kind of a nice encyclopedia for trans folks. There's a show on Netflix called Pose for a while. It was so good. And then I have just a list of local resources. So Trans Ohio, Stonewall, Kaleidoscope. Aaron Upchurch, who couldn't be here, runs Kaleidoscope. Nationwide Children's. There's all kinds of different agencies. When you think about North American, think about the Trevor Project. You think about the Fenway Institute, which is in Boston. It was one of the first clinics focused on gender care. CDC, Trans Lifeline. If you are just super interested in all things medical and all things trans, you can look at University of California, San Francisco, and just go crazy. You can learn everything about every medication, every kind of procedure you could possibly think of. Human Rights Campaign, Glad Glisten, all the fun things. So almost done, folks. So this is my last slide. So I had mentioned being divorced and remarried. So this is my wife, Jen, and we got married, I better know this, 2017. Oh, it's right, it's cut off. We got married March 19, 2017, and we were trying to think about themes, so we went with The Princess Bride, that old favorite 80s, 90s classic, right? And I'd been married before, and I always had to get married in a tuxedo, which really blew goats. So it was so nice to get married in a wedding dress, which was borrowed, and then something blue. So we just got married in a movie theater, which is here in Columbus, called Studio 35. It's like one of their independent theaters. Show all the Buckeye games, especially the ones when they play Michigan. But please, God, please
Did
be
they
Michigan.
show it last year? Just say.
I felt so welcome until that moment. Just please, Jesus, lose all year, but don't lose to freaking Michigan. Anyway, so yeah, we got married there. My family did not come, hers did, and we had a really good time. But anyway, that's the presentation. I think we have time for questions. And I know it's awkward to ask questions in front of a group of people, so I'll be here in between. I got one more of these to do, and I'll probably hang for lunch. So, question, come on, 2 question, 3 question, here we go, come on now. What's the question?
You mentioned HRT, I think. I don't know what that means.
Oh, man.
You mentioned HRT. I don't know what that stands for.
Oh. Well, we're going to go another hour over, folks. So I was assigned male at birth. Had a penis, testicles, all the things. And so I have a lot of testosterone in my body. And so that's a hormone. So testosterone is pretty powerful and it helps men develop, if you will. And so if I want to transition, then I want to do what's called cross-sex hormones. So I would then maybe want to introduce estrogen instead of testosterone into my body to help me like feminize. So to help things like breast growth or all those fun things. So hopefully that helps. And T in general is stronger than E. So you usually have like a T blocker that you take 2. And the one that's most common is called spironolactone, which probably somebody in this room takes as a water pill because it usually helps with blood pressure. If you take it high enough dose, it'll block T. So hopefully that helps. And so you can be on estrogen to kind of help transition forever if you'd like to. I mean, if you have an orchiectomy, which removes the testicles, then no T. Then you don't need the blocker anymore. You're like, woohoo! So, and then you can do things like tuck, which is like try to like pull everything back so that you have a more feminine front appearance. So, good question. Oh, what else we got? Another question, please. Here we go. Another question. Don't ask about Michigan. Here we go. Here you go.
This might have 2 parts.
Uh-oh. Again, another hour.
Gender dysphoria is new, is relatively new, right? And as a diagnostic. So could you just explain when that came from? And the second part was when you were talking about phalloplasties and vaginoplasties, I'm going, that's been around for a long time with soldiers in war and stuff, right? Or people having, that has nothing to do with gender dysphoria. And I guess the reason why I was bringing it up is that, you know, the crazy political people act like, you know, the world has been turned upside down and this is all wrong and it's got nothing to do with this other issue of gender dysphoria. So could you?
Amazing questions. So anybody in here want to identify as gay? Anybody want to identify as gay? I mean, we're kind of at a gay conference, right? So, up until 1974, the DSM said that you were mentally ill if you were gay.
Right.
The DSM-3. So, everybody in here is mentally ill. So there's that. So gender identity disorder is what it was first called in the DSM-4. And then in DSM-5, they kind of changed the language to gender dysphoria. But it's, I mean, people with gender issues have been around as long as people have been around. But they did start to classify it in like the 80s in relation to the DSM. But these procedures have been happening for all kinds of different reasons. Let's say you have precocious puberty, where your puberty is happening way before it's supposed to. People get diagnosed with these hormones unrelated to gender identity, unrelated to gender dysphoria. So these procedures have been out for a long time. They're just trying to criminalize it for this trans population. I hope that helps a little bit. Yes, and should I say father or brother? I don't know. Brother!
I just wanted to add on to that about the gender identity disorder versus gender dysphoria. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jody, but my understanding of the difference in the diagnoses is with gender identity disorder in the DSM-4, the focus was basically having a cross-sex gender identity was itself a disorder. So it might, you might be able to treat it with, a medical transition and then it's fine. But basically having, being identified as female at birth and having a male gender identity and vice versa is itself a disorder. But with the new gender dysphoria diagnosis, one of the reasons they wanted to change it was to say, having that cross-sex, scare quotes, gender identity is not itself a problem. It's really only if you're suffering from dysphoria, if that experience is causing anxiety, is causing dysfunction in your ability to interact in the world. So once you treated it with transition, and if the dysphoria goes away, technically you no longer qualify for the diagnosis. You know, so now we're gender euphoric.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. So for me, for example, I've had bottom surgery. So do I still have dysphoria related to my bottom? Like, not as much, because, you know, things look good down there. So it's treatable. And what the DSM is trying to do is move away from this being like a pathology, right? It's just a normal part of life. Did you have a question too?
Oh my gosh, Maureen.
And well, mine's more related to your experience, because as somebody who also went to nursing school, I know at least going to nursing school in Texas, that was not a good place to be queer. What was your nursing school experience like doing that?
So when I went to nursing school, it was the Christ Hospital in Cincinnati. It was a 2-year deal, so like associate's degree, and I wasn't out yet. There were like 150 people in the class, maybe 15 guys. So I was just still laying low in nursing school. But yeah, it was interesting. So.
Another part of that is having been, having been in the military as a man. Do you still have contact with any of the men that you served with, and how did they react?
I have not in much contact with the people in my unit from back in the day, but I tried to get back in the military as a trans person a few years ago, which was quite the struggle. So I met a lot of people in the trans military community. So yeah. All right. Other questions? Oh man. Oh my gosh. I don't know how long we go.
You keep going.
Keep going. There you go, Terry.
All right. I was recently in a discussion with a number of people, and I would have categorized most of these people as being very liberal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we were discussing this for youth in this situation of the dysphoria. And what I realized is that there was this fear within these people that should the transition begin as a younger person, as a child under 18 or 21, there was this fear that they might be making a mistake, and they cannot reverse that mistake. And so how would you advise discussing that issue with these people who are having this fear?
Well, yeah, this brings up a whole, like I said, we can go until 4.
You don't have that much time.
What else you got going on?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Ooh. So I had mentioned before about the coming out process. And so when kids, for example, my kiddo started to use he, him pronouns at 5, assigned female at birth. Her name used to be Lily. And started to use he, him. We thought maybe it was really a speech impediment because they have a speech impediment. But eventually it was pretty clear that they were going by him. And the school called and said, hey, your kid's using he, him. Like, is that okay? Do you know that? We were like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, we know that. Is it okay if we use he, him? We were like, yeah, that's totally fine. And it was nice the school was so open about it, because not every school is going to be. So from that, using my kid's example, pediatrician puts in a referral. The referral goes, in our case, to Nationwide Children's Hospital through their Thrive program. So start going to Thrive, and the Thrive department used to have just a handful of kids, and then last year had like over 200 kids in it. But one of the nice things about Thrive is you meet with social workers, you meet with psychologists, you meet with endocrinologists, you meet with all this different team of people that are assessing your kid and where they are. So it's nice to have that kind of thorough a treatment team, if you will. But you have to think about age. So typically speaking, before like 15, 16, it's just kind of a social transition. Like go live as your identified gender and just see how that feels. See if that's really who you are, because you are so young, you know? And so also what can happen is people can take what are called puberty blockers. And so the blocker will kind of delay puberty. It doesn't damage puberty or end puberty. It just gives your body a year or two to get a little more mature so your brain catches up, and then hopefully you can make a better decision about maybe as a teenager, maybe doing something like hormones. And then as a young adult, maybe doing something like a surgery. So I hope that answers the question a little bit. It's controversial, of course, across Ohio, and I don't know at this point federally, you can't do any surgeries in anyone less than 18, which is totally fine. The issue to me is, like, who decides on these interventions? Should the family and your medical team make these choices, or do you want the government to make the choice for you? Nobody really wants that, but here we are. I hope that helps a little bit. Sure. Is that it for now?
That's it for